Thank you. I think you had a lot of talks that were very high level here today. We will dive down a bit into like very specific stuff on how to set up teams for projects. I also think I have by far the least professional slides of the whole conference, so you'll have to stay with me there and mostly listen to me. Let me introduce myself quickly. Oh, sorry, I need to stay in the thing, right? Yeah. I'm Leon. I used to be a software engineer for quite some time, moved to become a startup CTO at some point, did usual startup CTO stuff, more strategy work, managing people, connecting software development and strategy, and that's kind of where I found my passion, I guess. And at some point, I co-founded Opencreek with a few of my best friends and also longtime colleagues. We are a teeny tiny boutique consultancy of people with a startup background, and we help companies to be successful doing greenfield software projects. And by helping, I mean we get in and actually do the projects. We don't talk about it, we do it. And that is what I want to talk to you about, how you should do greenfield software projects, especially when starting them in the beginning, with or without us. I am not trying to sell you a lot of people because I don't have a lot of people, mostly trying to make you work like we do. And I will focus on the team here. So I will talk a lot about the team, and by that I mean the team doing the project. Then we'll talk about how to set up the team, what it needs, how it needs to be integrated. Fair warning here, most of what I'm saying today is advanced common sense at best. I think the best things in life are advanced common sense. You have probably heard a lot of this before. You might think that you already know this, and you probably do. But in my experience, when coming into your companies, I mean, not yours specifically, but other companies, looking at how people work, doing projects there, looking right and left, you're probably not doing it, and it might be a problem. So I'm here as a reminder of the things that you already know. We will define 4 traits that a team needs and the setup around the team needs. The fact that it's 4 traits is super arbitrary. I just thought 4 boxes look good on a slide, so it's 4 today. And we will go into every single trait in detail and in the end figure out why it's exactly those 4 traits and what happens if we have them. The first trait that I want to talk about is the team should be small. And by small, I don't mean tiny humans, I mean few humans. 3 humans in our case, that's how we work, it's always 3 people. Small teams have some very obvious advantages that you might know about and have felt if you've ever worked in small teams or if you have ever worked in startups. Small teams spend a lot less time forming and storming, clashing egos, finding out how communication works, how other people think, building social hierarchies. All the stuff that happens if you put humans together, that scales super linearly with the amount of people you put in a team. So putting few people in a team makes us spend less time on that and get moving. The second part, which is really nice, especially when you do greenfield software projects, which is what we talk about, is that small teams have a way easier time synchronizing mental models. When we build new software, we start building super complex virtual machines with new concepts and things floating around that get built and changed and break down all the time. And it's crucial that the team shares a model of that. And that's very easy in small teams. It's actually kind of magical in small teams because you don't really need to work for that to happen. It just happens because most people are in most meetings and you don't need rituals around it. It just kind of happens. And that gets us moving. The third point why small teams are good, and that's especially interesting for our company, is smaller teams are better at utilizing unusual humans. And what I mean by that is if you have someone who's very talented, but the things they're good at, or the set of things they're good at and they're passionate about, don't really fit in a traditional role because those things usually span across roles. Small teams usually have an easy time integrating that, because you get the startup effect where you have a lot of things to do and you have few people to do it, and then it just naturally happens that people do what they're good at because there's just a lot of shit to be done. And that works really well. So small teams. Don't build big teams in the start. You will spend lots of time on them forming and finding roles and people not fitting in. We don't want that. So we have a small team, 3 people in our case. Might be 4, that's fine too. The second trait sounds like a giant buzzword, but I promise there's meaning behind it. The team needs to be strategic. And what I mean by that is when you start a greenfield software project, you have a strategy in mind or a strategic idea in mind why you do it. Like you want to conquer a market. Maybe it's your first digital business model. You launch some auxiliary service supporting a thing you already have. Maybe you want to make a process in your company more efficient, improve its quality, whatever. And you have an idea of how that feeds into the bigger strategy of the company. That idea behind the project needs to be the only thing guiding that team. And this might sound trivial, like, yeah, whatever, we need to translate strategy and communicate it well. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying this should shape who the team talks to and who they work with. If you start a project and they have one main stakeholder they talk to every week, make that person be the person who owns that strategy. Don't make it be someone who's good at breaking it down and making it bite-sized for someone else. Or even worse, don't make it someone who thinks that they can translate that strategy into what needs to be done and they just need someone to do it. Right? Don't do that. Make them talk to someone who is strategic and make sure that their mindset is, what is the strategy? Why are we doing this for the company? This is what they're asking themselves every day with every single task they're doing. And if you do that correctly, I would say, this creates a team that can be challenged on strategic outcomes, but cannot be challenged on deliverables. And the team itself commits itself to strategic outcomes, which is what you want, which is why you have them in the first place, not to deliverables that you have defined because you thought it was the right thing to do. Okay, so we have a small team. It's strategically integrated into the company, has like a strategic stakeholder to talk to, has strategic goals. The third thing the team needs now is it needs to be enabled. And by enabled, I mean it needs to be enabled to do whatever is necessary to bring the project to life. And now we get into the actual doing part, right? Like, what is the team actually doing? And our personal answer, how we think it works well, is everything. This team needs to be able to do everything. This includes not only writing software, coding, this includes deploying it, rolling it out, testing it, running experiments, building feedback loops, deciding which kind of users to talk to, what kind of feedback to get, and most importantly, what to build in the first place. The team needs to be enabled to decide what to build, to reach the strategic outcomes that we have decided together, right? That we want to achieve. This also includes them deciding how to work themselves. So if you have an idea on how a team should run and you have like a process and like rituals and meetings and KPIs that are connected to that, drop it, let them do their thing and challenge them on what they achieve strategically. And let them take care of everything. Just let them run the whole project. This requires two things in the organization. The first thing is trust towards the team. So people need to trust the team that they're have the right goals, right? That they have the right mindset, moving in the right direction, want to achieve the same thing the rest of the org wants to achieve. And it needs a certain amount of freedom that the org can enable for the team to move. And this might mean that you have some things that are already up and running and that you think are synergistic and help a lot of teams as a resource to use. And that's fine. But if you notice that the team is getting blocked or is getting slower because they're trying to use your thing, but your thing is actually slowing them down and it's way over-engineered for what they need, drop it, let them bypass it, let them do their thing. That's what I mean by enabled. Freedom to actually move. Okay, we have a small team, 3 people, strategic. It is enabled, it has trust and freedom. Those are things that the organization provides the team in a way. Like the organization needs to culturally enable that, right? Needs to make sure that it can actually provide that. The fourth trait is something that the team itself needs to do, and the team itself needs to do, and that means it needs to be impacting. And by impacting, I mean the team always needs to chase the next tangible impact in the organization. I'm not talking about impactful here. It's not about big impacts. It's about small, tangible impacts, which means something that people outside of the team can touch, use, see, and that people outside of the team find valuable in any way and could explain to someone else why it's valuable. And I'm not going to bore you with basic agile ideas of, yeah, you should not chase a giant goal over 2 years and a giant roadmap. Instead of you should do small things. I expect you to know that and to do that. But this goes a bit beyond that because the result itself need to be valuable for the org or for at least a few people in the org. They need to see the impact because this ensures that the rest of what we need is stable. It creates like a trust loop, right? I get trusted by the rest of the org. I get the freedom to move. I create small impact, but actual impact that other people can touch and other people can talk to other people too about. This creates trust, this creates freedom. I'm in a loop, I can go, I can move. Essentially what I'm saying here is don't create a small team that is strategic and enabled and then let them sit in an ivory tower for 3 months, 4 months, building something where they tell you, yeah, this will be awesome once it's done. Don't do that. They need to create some form of impact, as small as it can be, it's fine. Just make sure that the org sees it, because otherwise you will probably have a problem at some point. The setup will not work, people will not trust it, people will not care. We don't want that. Okay, I said there's 4 traits. I talked about those 4 traits now. We have a small team, strategically integrated, enabled, and it's impacting. It always chases the next actual tangible impact. All of that, if we have all of that, this actually creates 1/5 trait, which is hidden in the middle of the slide here, which is actually why we're doing all of this. If we manage to do that, we have real ownership within the team. And that is the actual secret sauce, in our opinion, that makes projects succeed or makes them fail. Real ownership means that people feel like what they're building is their baby. They want it to succeed. They hate when it fails. They develop surprisingly strong opinions on how it should look, who should use it, strong opinions on the business processes around it. They really care. And this is what makes projects succeed. And in my opinion, on the opposite side, this is very often what makes projects fail. It's because, frankly, we often just set up cultures and structures in a way that allow people to just not care. And that's a big problem, especially if you put people on islands, you don't let them talk to each other, you don't let them touch certain things. People just stop caring, and you see it in the outcomes. And it's hard to put a finger on what's happening, but it's kind of stuff's not happening, right? This is our opinion on how you should approach a new greenfield software project. This is obviously also what we do. What we do is we send 3-people teams into companies. We talk to customers to make sure that the project that we do with them is set up in a way I just described, which is a process and which is quite a high requirement we have. But we promise to deliver the strategic goals in the end. But as we are a very small company and we also want to stay very small, I'm not here to sell all of you a lot of teams. I hope that you can try that approach yourself and that you can set up teams this way yourself. And if you think that cannot work at my company, there's no way, then come to my roundtable, talk to me about it. Otherwise, be happy to meet you there. And thanks for your attention.